Welcome back to Candy Eggs. We're back at it again with the naturalistic setup for blue death feigning beetles, Asbolus verrucosus. I have added more clay from my friend's house because there was, believe it or not enough, in my opinion. I've got some left over. I have had miscellaneous problems with heating, so I'm just going to leave it unheated and try and steal the babies like an alien monster whenever they're large enough to pupate, and then hopefully put them outside in the normal Arizona weather in the shade. That should be hot enough, and as long as I keep wetting it, hypothetically, that should gain more beetles. So we're going to continue to see where this goes. Unfortunately, this didn't work either. So I'm just going to kind of need to spread water on this wet side of the terrarium every once in a while, which is a little bit unfortunate. I really wanted this to work, but the clay, it just turns into a brick when it's wet, and it clogged this entirely. So I can't even unclog it without going through a lot of effort, and I'm not about to do that every single time, so I'm just going to pour water on this side. So far, I have this set up. This is very sentimental value because this was my rabbit's back when I first got her when I was a child. And obviously, if you know about rabbits, she did not like this bowl. But it is now a hide for beetles. I have some dirt on top just so they can't get stuck in it like dumb little idiots. The underside has holes like that, so I'm going to be using this as a hide, because they do dig a little bit. They're not the best at digging, but they do it. So I am going to go ahead and add some more stuff. Beetles really do like to hide, and I've noticed that they normally don't stray too far from where they like to hide. So I've got this. This they can climb on. This is very, very old. This was when we were young children. We had hermit crabs, unfortunately. Hermit crabs make horrible, awful pets. They just die very, very, very slowly. But this should be a good hide for them. I want to be able to look. Something I have noticed, which the beetles have in common with the snake, the corn snake I have, which I should do a video on at some point, they really like to run around the perimeter. So we're going to keep that in mind, not have too many obstacles around the perimeter, because they can flip themselves over, but sometimes they get stuck like that. And that's very unfortunate. I have noticed when they sleep, they either go to sleep like little nappies, or they go to sleep for like 10 hours at a time and just are unable to wake up. And when they get stuck upside down, I believe they just are forced into sleeping and then look like they're dead for a really long time. And that's why you want to have a dead cup. So we've got this hide, which actually I think I'm going to bury quite a bit. That's very nice. There's a little hole there. Just get a lot of hiding places. Meanwhile, this one, I'm going to make a wet hide. This is just a piece of pottery that I smashed because I like it to look naturalistic. And again, we're going to try and avoid the corners. The camera does not see this corner. I'm going to attempt to move it without it falling down. That seems pretty good. And what they will do is they will dig under this side, like so. I think I'm going to leave a nice blank space so that they can't fall over, but leave space enough for them to dig. And they're very, very strong animals. I'll dip that in as well. And I do have some choya, which I don't think you're supposed to collect from the wild. I did, but in my defense, it is everywhere, and I only picked pieces that were already fully decomposed, and only little pieces, and like less than a 20th of what I saw. They are absolutely everywhere. So some of these have holes that might be dangerous. I'll have to see, but I want these to be on the dry side, so I'm going to leave this as a little bit of a climber. Actually, let's go like that. That way they have a nice little tunnel right there. That seems good. So I'm going to go ahead and get some other pieces. Wow. Now this gives a much better understanding of what I meant when it might be dangerous. Pieces like this that have a hole in it. This is within their native range, and this stuff is all over the choya, which is not called chola. Don't be that white. I'm worried that they might be able to get stuck, but we will see. Insects have pretty flexible exoskeletons. The chitin is kind of squishy, which is a thing. But I'm just going to place this in a manner where it won't be too obtrusive. Let's get this big climbing piece. Seems fun. I don't want them to be able to climb too high. Yeah, I think I'm gonna face it the other way. That's pretty nice. Just kind of mash it down. Wowza. Now, that fell down. I've got a couple of little pieces like this, which I know they will appreciate. So I'm just gonna go ahead and bash this. I'm trying to make like a very solid dry side and wet side, and I want the tray to be on the wet side. I mean on the dry side rather. This piece, I'll just go like this. I wet that down so that it stays in better. That seems good enough. Now we've got some long pieces left. This one, I don't think they can fit in this one at all, so this one should be fine. Actually, this is kind of blocking the middle pathway. I'm going to move this a little bit. Cover that back up so it doesn't move too much. Because again, they are very strong little animals and they will move stuff. I think that's nice. I'm going to bury this end a bit. It seems pretty solid. Yeah, I'll move it over here. This is where the decision making takes place. Okay. This is kind of nice. Actually, yeah, let's build a little bridge like that. I like that. It's a nice little bridge. It might lead them to right here. I should move this then. I'll just place it on the ground right there. Now I've got this piece that's a Y. We could place it so it's another like little climbing tool. I like that. Although people don't really give them things to climb, I've noticed they climb a lot. Very, very often. If they have the ability to, they will. This piece is also a bit of a Y. We could place it like that. I like that actually. It gives a nice little area where there's multiple ways that they can climb. I think that's very nice. Let's go ahead and get another angle of that. Whoa. I think that's pretty nice. See, the edges are pretty empty so that they can walk around it. And I am also keeping the water thing, even though it didn't work. I am keeping it just because it looks cute. And they can't climb on this, so it's fine. So we've managed to capture all 5. There's a bit of a hullabaloo going on right there. I accidentally messed up the recording, so we're not going to see picking them up individually, but we've got all 5 and a little piece of watermelon. So let's go ahead and rummage through the scraps of this terrarium. Alrighty, I picked some choice rocks, and now I'm going to place these pretty nicely. I don't want to place it too close to this, because if I ever move it, I don't want the rocks to crush anybody's little peats. I think right here is a good rock place. The last terrarium had too many rocks and way too much gravel, but this one hopefully is going to go a lot better. Oh yeah, okay. And I can go and put one of these white rocks somewhere. There we go. I have noticed that the males really like to leave spermatophores on the rocks, and for anyone who doesn't know what that means, skip ahead a little bit. It is basically when the males, to be frank, they treat the rock as if it were a female and then leave a packet of spermatozoa on the ground so that the female can eat it as a gift. Isn't that wonderful? And they love to leave them on rocks, so I think rocks are pretty important for them. This one is shaped mildly like a tooth. That's fun. Flat top, round. I think I'm gonna expose the round end, and then just kind of plop this one And I think this one will work better if I kind of just mash it. Yeah, and then I can leave this white one just on the top then. I think that's pretty nice. Now I am gonna try and leave most of the stuff from the old terrarium as is, in case I get anything else, but they really like these two pieces making a double trail, basically. So I'm going to attempt to recreate that. It's sort of like a double tunnel, which they really, really liked. That seems pretty okay. I think I'm gonna form a furrow. And I also think it is very important for them to have like wet areas to hide. A lot of people focus that on amphibians and reptiles, but insects are kind of infamously creatures of the wet. I think that's pretty okay. This one isn't as sturdy as I would prefer, so I'm gonna just move some of the dirt into there. And they should dig their way right through. I've been saying to leave the corners empty. They can go under it or over it pretty easily. I think that's pretty nice. Okay, I'm gonna go fetch some more materials. After much consideration, I decided to only take one piece. And that's this one. They really like to hide under this. They have two hiding places on the dry side already. I could just put this as another hide like that. I think that's pretty nice. That's a nice dark place for them to congregate, and it also has a path here and a path here. Let's go ahead and take a look at this up closer. We got the rocks, hides there, hide there, hide there, hide there, hide there. This is a nice little pathway, and you can also see how deep the clay goes now. They really like this one. Hopefully they'll like the other hides just as much, the coconut there. I try very hard not to disturb their hides, partially because they really like to crunch up in there. But now, it's time to add some leaves. The previous video in this series had the whole deal with the leaves, and I've still got the leaves. Unfortunately, my snake does not like touching them, which is very odd, and I will probably remove most of the leaves from him whenever I need more leaves from my beetles. But the snake just kind of pushed all the leaves into a ball, which is odd. And there are leaves inside the substrate for the grubs, but I'm also going to plaster some around here, and this will add even more hiding places, and it will also keep it fairly wet. And I of course want some leaves to go onto the dry side as well, over the rocks even. I think this is looking pretty nice. I think I'm going to remove some of the leaves. I'll remove leaves from the very edge, I think. Add one. Got a nice leaf right there. That's pretty nice. I'm going to add this big one, I think, right there. And I've got some leaves left over still. I'm going to go ahead and tie this back up. And I'm going to wet down some, and then I'm going to start adding the little buggies. So I've got a little food dish, which they really like to scavenge absolutely everywhere, so it's not really necessary, but I like to tell whether or not they found things. And I'm going to add some freeze-dried cricket. Now, you may notice the bearded dragon on the cover, and if you know anything about bearded dragons, they really, really hate these, reasonably. But Asbolus verrucosus, the blue death feigning beetle, and many beetles like them. A big part of their niche is just being like a vulture that doesn't fly. So they will just stumble across extremely desiccated corpses of insects. and just eat them. And those didn't go in the cup, but I'm gonna leave them. And because of that niche, they can eat things that are incredibly dry. Like, it's not very wet in this house, so nothing really molds. And all the water that I sprayed will evaporate like within the day really quickly. And it's just how it is. I leave little pieces of fruit, like eat it like weeks after. So I've got that in. I'm gonna go ahead and fetch the beetles and place them in. So here's the children, and I know the females individually, but the males are kind of hard to tell apart, but I believe that one with the watermelon is Tiny. So we are going to go ahead and remove Tiny first. He's still got his watermelon. Everything's good. I go ahead and place him down in the new home. There you go, Tiny. Now I believe this one right here, this male, is wide, as he has the largest pronotum. I believe this is wide. I don't know. The males are really hard to tell apart. So let's go ahead and get him down in there. And now the females are kind of getting berated by who is either wide or boneless. Let's get him out. I believe this is boneless. Go ahead and put him in the new home too. They're being a little bit scared. They go, oh, this is all new. So now let's go ahead and get Chip, the smaller female. Ooh, she's very vigorous today. She gave me a death scare not that long ago. Which again, this is why we have this cup, as the cup is where I put them for a day or two to make sure if they actually died or not. And none of them have died yet, and she is very vigorous. Let's go ahead and get her into the new home. Oops, there she goes. See, they are very good at flipping each other over, or flipping themselves over. Now we got my favorite, definitely not playing favorites, the queen, the thick queen. She's more than twice as large as the smallest male. Oops. Almost dropped her there, it's fine. Now we've got all the babies all up in there. Very nice. Thank you for joining me. This has been Kandy Eggs with my little beetle project. I'll go ahead and update further down the line.